Hi guys, welcome back to yet another sewing tutorial. So this video is a continuation from the previous video. We shared the pattern drafting in the last video, and this is the stitching tutorial, and this is the outcome that I have. If this seems like something you're interested in, then let's continue with today's tutorial. So I'm going to be making use of this crepe material. I have about 4 meters here. I'm going to be using it for the lining and the main piece. So for my side front, I added 0.5 all around, and I also added 0.5 on my center front. And for the peplum part, I added 0.5, and for the part I'll be using for the back, I added a zipper allowance. And this is my back piece. I have 4 pieces, which I did cut out my lining piece as well. So I'm just going to notch my zipper, and I'll also proceed to notch my dart legs. So right after notching, I'm going to go ahead and use my pin to poke on the chest line just to be able to trace out the dart on my fabrics. So I'll just place it this way, and I'll go ahead and use my chalk to just make the markings on the fabric so I can know where to stop when I start stitching the dart. So this is my center front. I have 2 pieces right here, which one is for the lining and one is for the main piece. I'll go ahead and open it, and this is how it looks. I'll also bring in my side front, which I have about 4 pieces here. 2 will be my lining and the other 2 would be my main piece. So I'm going to unpin this, and I'm going to show you how to stitch it together. So I'll place my side front side by side, and I'll go ahead to pin them down. And I'm going to stitch this side by 1/2 inch. I'll do the same thing on this side. I'll pin my piece down. And I'll also stitch by 1/2 inch. So for my peplum part, I placed 1 piece for the lining and 1 piece for the main piece, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch all around by 1/2 inch, leaving the top part. This is my back piece for the peplum part, which I added 2 inches for my zipper allowance, and I'm going to proceed by placing them on each other, which is the lining piece and the main piece. I'll go ahead and stitch by 1/2 inch from the center back all the way to the side, but I'm going to leave the top open. So I'll repeat the same thing for the other one. For my back pieces as well, I have 1 piece for the lining and 1 piece for the main piece. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch them all around. So I'll be stitching from the neckline. I'll stitch to the center back, I'll stitch the side, and I'll leave the shoulder part. So after stitching my front piece, this is how it looks. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the lining piece as well, and I'll stitch the neckline and stitch the sides as well. So after stitching, I'm just going to go ahead and trim out all the excess that I have all around the fabrics. I'll flip it over to the right side, and I'll give everything a good press. This is my back piece. I also went ahead to stitch by 1/2 inch, and I also stitched in my dart, and I'm going to trim out all the excess and notch the curvy parts, and I'll flip it over and give it a good press as well. So this is my front piece after stitching, and these are my back pieces. So what I'm going to do is to join them on the shoulder just to have a very neat finishing. I'll go ahead and open up my seam allowance and I'll place them like so. And I'll stitch all around the shoulder line. I'll open the seam allowance here as well, and I'll stitch all over the shoulder line. Once I'm done stitching the shoulder, I'll also proceed to stitch by my allowance and turn it over. So this is what I have after stitching the sides, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in the peplum part. So this is what I have for the front, and this is the back. So I'm going to go ahead and place them right sides on each other, and I'm going to stitch by my allowance. After stitching, this is what you should have, and when you place your top part and the bottom part together, they should be equal on the waist like mine. So this is how it looks. Now we're going to proceed by stitching them together. So I'll just open up my piece, and I'll also place the peplum part on it like so, and I'll pin them down and stitch all around the waist. After stitching, I'll set that inside, and we're going to work with the sleeve. So for my sleeve, I already have my pattern drafted. I'm going to leave a link below in my description box so you can know how to draft the sleeve. So this is just a basic sleeve. For my length, I want to work with about 24 inches. So I'm just making the marking right here. I'm also going to proceed to also add about 1 inch allowance just to fold in my lining piece and to hem the bottom part. So I'm just going to also mark 1 inch for the allowance right here. I'll also proceed to add about 1 inch on the side just to go ahead and join my lining piece to my main piece. This is because this fabric is not stretchy at all, so I need the space for me to be able to put on the top. So now to get the puff sleeve, I'm going to raise this part by 5 inches, and this is what I'm marking here. And I'm also going to go ahead and connect this into my armhole curve. So after connecting, we're going to be pleating in this part into our top. So now I'm going to proceed to cut out my sleeve. So now I'm just going to make a mark here just to know where I'm going to stop the pleat. You can also make a notch right there. So I'm going to be pleating this part into the notched area. Now I'm going to proceed to also cut out my lining piece and my other sleeve. So I'm going to be cutting out 4 pieces, which 2 will be for the lining and 2 will be for my main piece. So when you open up the sleeve, this is how it looks. And these are my 4 pieces. For my lining piece, I went ahead to make it about ½ an inch shorter so I can be able to use it to turn it over. So I'll place 1 piece, which is the lining, and 1 piece, which is the main piece. I'll proceed to stitch along the edges, which is the bottom part. So I'm going to be stitching this bottom part by ½ an inch. I'll also stitch the side by ½ an inch. I'll stitch this other side as well. I'll turn it over and give it a good press. After ironing, this is what I have. The next thing to do now is to run the pleats. So I'm going to use my gather stitch to just pleat in those areas. So after pleating, this is how it looks. You can see the puff sleeve is in shape right now. I'll repeat the same thing for the other piece. And now to join the pieces, I'm going to go ahead and stitch them right sides on each other. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch by ½ an inch right here, and this is what I have. So now I'm going to bring in my main piece and I'm going to attach my sleeve into the top. So you want to make sure that the center of your puff sleeve is aligning with the shoulder line of your top. So I'm just going to flip my sleeve over to the right side and I'm going to stitch all around my sleeve. So I'll proceed to stitch all around, making sure that my sleeve actually fits into my top. After stitching, this is how beautiful it looks. I also went ahead to fix in the zipper. And this is the final look of the top. The top is really beautiful and I hope this tutorial was very helpful. If so, please do not forget to like, share, leave a comment, and do let me know what you think about this top. And I'll see you in my next video. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.